thank you guys for joining us today. I'm really excited to wrap up the year with this session all about 2026 go-to-market planning. And I've got a great team here with me today to help with that. And so one of the faces is going to be fairly familiar to you if you've been joining us for a while. That's Lauren, because she moderates every month with me. You want to say hi, Lauren?
Yeah, hi everyone. It's good to be here today. I'm excited to talk through 2026 planning.
Awesome. And another face, if you're one of our clients, you've definitely seen this face around, but if you're not one of our clients, and I know a lot of you aren't, one of our account managers is joining us today. Jeremy, you want to say hi, Jeremy?
Yeah, hello everybody. Excited to be here today, and particularly excited about this topic. It's one that I enjoy quite a bit. So,
yeah, and glad to have you on the Growth Show, Jeremy. Hopefully, we'll get you on more of these in coming months. And the reason I picked Lauren and Jeremy to be on the show with me today is we've been doing go-to-market planning, obviously, with our clients. Lauren and Jeremy and I have done a lot of them. And so I thought it would be really good for all of you that join us month after month, just to kind of see a little bit behind the scenes, how we do that, what that's like. In fact, some of the resources that we're leveraging today for the show are the resources that we actually use with our clients. And so I thought I'd bring the A-team in to help you guys with that. Also, as you're dialing in, clicking in, I always want to say dialing in. It makes me sound like I'm old, which I am. But would love to know if you're a newbie, if this is your very first time to join us on the B2B Growth Show, or if you're a regular attender, if you've been to 3 or more, that would be awesome, just to kind of get a sense of everybody that's here. But glad that you're here. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. We've got a lot of stuff we're going to cover with you guys today. The first thing I'm going to share is the agenda, just to give you guys a quick lay of the land here. So this is what we've dropped in chat a couple of times now. And if you're following along on LinkedIn, Jessica's dropped that over for you. Sydney's dropped it for you here on Riverside. This will be just a really helpful resource for you, even after the show today. But what I wanted to highlight is a couple of things. One, down here where it says go-to-market toolkit, there's a link to the assessment right there. If you have not taken the pipeline growth assessment, go ahead and click that link right now. It'll take you 3 to 5 minutes tops to get that completed. That'll give you a score that'll be helpful for later on. We also have a guide that we've put together. This is a workbook that literally you'll be able to take after today. Go work with your leadership, go work with other departments in the company to really lock in your go-to-market plan. And, Lauren and Jeremy and I, when we were getting ready for this, we know you guys already have been in planning. Like, you're not waiting until the 17th of December to start your planning. So we're not here thinking, you're just starting from scratch. At least I hope not. But hopefully these tools that we're going to walk you through today are going to be tools that you can use to really just refine, maybe, sharpen or not sharpen some rough edges, but get those worked out. And so I just wanted you to make sure you saw all of that. Next thing I just wanted to talk about as we're looking at the agenda here is just to let you know that we're wrapping season 4. So this is literally the last episode of season 4. I cannot believe we've been doing this literally for 4 years now. For those of you that have been around since the very first season, which I guess was 2021, thank you for hanging with us. Man, the show's changed a lot in the last 4 years. Really excited about the guests that we had on the show this year. We had a lot of great names that joined us, and we've got a really awesome lineup for you guys next year. And I wanted to just jump over to our event page. This is our brand new website, by the way. It got launched about a week ago. And part of what we wanted to do on our new website was have a really useful event page that wasn't just, hey, this is the next event that's coming up, but give you a chance to register for multiple events. And as you can see here, we've got pretty much the first half of the year, a little bit more than the first half of the year already booked up. And we've got some great episodes in store for you guys. The one in January with Logan Lyles is going to be a great one. I know all of us B2Bs, we're leveraging webinars and events as a way to grow our contacts and to build engagement with our buyers. And so we're going to talk about ways that we can get the most out of our events in January. Then we're going to talk about answer engine optimization in February. One of my favorite sales consultants is going to come back for a second season, Jen Allen Knuth. She's amazing. You won't want to miss that in April. We're not going to do a show in February, and I'm not going to walk you through the rest of these, but we've got Rand Fishkin coming back next year. We've got Jay Swedelson coming back next year. So you can get all of that on our events page, and that is actually linked right there on our agenda. You can see that right here. So at some point, go sign up for multiple sessions. We'd love to see you next year. Thank you guys, really, for all the coming month after month after month and joining us on these growth shows. We get great feedback from you guys, and we certainly appreciate it. So why don't we go ahead and jump in and start talking about why we're all here today. And that's really to refine our 2026 go-to-market plan. And we've got a few slides together that we're going to show you today. And then we've got some resources that we'll get into here in a minute. So let me just go over here real quick and just share. I know I'm already sharing my screen, but let me walk you guys through a few things. So the first thing I wanted to do is just highlight this image from a post I actually shared on LinkedIn today. Albert Einstein in his famous quote of, what is the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over again and hoping for a different result. And, the reason why I put that on LinkedIn today and why I had this as a slide is I see this over and over, right? We all think that, hey, we're just going to rinse and repeat. We're going to change our 2025 plan, just change the number 2025 to 2026, hope that we can do a better job this year. And I'm just telling you that the world has changed significantly, and it's just not going to work. It didn't work in the past. It's not going to work in the future. And so we've got to do something different if we're going to respond to how the world is changing and how our buyers are shifting. And just to give you a sense of what's going on in the market, I think all of us have experienced this. I know as I talk to clients and I talk to prospects, I see this all the time. Everybody's traffic is down. And when you dig into it, what's causing that traffic to be down? The number one thing is search, right? And our buyers being able to get information without having to go to our websites, because we can go to Google, and instead of having to get a list of blue links and then go read a lot of content on somebody's site, Google's going to give me the answer. But our buyers have also learned, hey, I can just go to ChatGPT or go to Perplexity or Claude, your AI soup du jour, and get information without having to visit websites. And what that's resulted in is, all of us across the board are seeing less traffic, and it's impacting B2B companies more than B2C companies. Because if you think about it, if you think about the traditional funnel, although I don't like to think about it that way as much anymore, the stuff that our buyers used to come to our website for at the top of the funnel, they're just not coming to our websites for those things anymore. They're getting that information in other places. And as a result of that, if we're getting less traffic, our leads are going to be going down as well. This all sounds terrible, but the reality is it's not bad. It's just our buyers have changed. And so, AI is part of the problem. The second thing there on the right side is we have these blind spots going on because our buyers are getting this information in other places. We just need to know where those places are, and we need to be a part of that conversation that they're having. We need to be a part of that process of their learning, even though they may not be learning on our website. One other thing, just looking down on this list here is, there's a lot of go-to-market misalignment or random acts of marketing happening where we're just running campaigns. We've got this thing that's happening coming up. Maybe it's a trade show event. Maybe it's a product launch. Maybe it's we just need some more leads. The CEO just called down, hey, we need more lead stat. And we're running campaigns instead of running always on systems. These are all having huge impacts on our ability to succeed, and things that we're going to try to help you get over or overcome those things today. And so the key point on this slide is really the bottom line right there. And that is, it's not about how many people come to our website anymore, but do they trust us before they come to our website? And we cannot build trust when somebody is in market, right? We can't wait for them to go, I have a need for something that you provide, and then build trust with them. Trust is built when they're future buyers, way, way before they decide they're in market. In that, what we call internally, when they're a future buyer or when they're passively learning. Like, every leader that we sell to, your business or my business, they've got a priority of projects they're working on right now. That's when they're a now buyer, and they're out there trying to find the best solutions that they possibly can. But they're also, if they're good leaders, they're passively learning about other fires that they might have that aren't things that they're prioritizing right now. And that's really our opportunity to speak into their world. If we can become a go-to resource for them and help them answer questions, that's where we build trust before they land on our website. And so a key part of being successful in 26 is really thinking about our website or homepage really not being our homepage anymore, but the places where our buyers go to learn and spend time. That's where our new homepage is. And so we're going to walk you through some ways to accomplish that today. Really excited to do that. So, the key takeaway here is 2025 roadmap or game plan, go to market isn't going to work because our buyers have changed. The way they get to information and knowledge has changed, and we've got to adapt to that change as well. So to summarize that, the way that we market must align with really how our buyers learn and buy today. And so if you've struggled in 25, this is really going to be the trick to winning in 2026. And that's why we put together this toolkit for you. And again, if you've got the agenda, I know Sydney and Jessica have shared that a couple of times in our different chats. There are links to all of these things here. But this is what we've put together to help you with 2026 planning. One is the assessment. So thank you for taking that. We'll walk you through that here in just a second. The other one is the guide/workbook, which is something that we're going to walk you through today. We're not going to complete it today, but we're going to at least give you an understanding, a lay of the land, if you will, on what that's all about so that you can take it to leadership, to sales leadership, and you guys can complete this thing together. And then the last part of the toolkit is a follow-up session. So if you want to sit down with us for 45 minutes to an hour, one-on-one, we're happy to do that. We won't charge you for that. This is not a sales pitch. There won't be a sales pitch. We just want to help you get the most out of what we're talking about today. And if you want, we can do a one-day workshop with you. That's another option. But really, for the purposes of today, it's the assessment, it's the guide, and then you can schedule some one-on-one time with me if you want more help after today. Okay, well, I've just spent the last 10 minutes yakking away here, but what I want to do now is actually have Jeremy walk us through what the heck is this report that you get after you fill out the pipeline growth assessment. So Jeremy, I'm going to pitch it to you.
Yeah, thanks, Paul. If you guys have taken this already, you have seen this or you have it in your inbox. If you haven't taken it yet, you will. So the goal of this, when we built this tool, was to help take some of the subjectivity out of how we evaluate what our go-to-market plan looks like and move it into a more objective type of format where we actually get an output. We actually get a score that we can measure ourselves against for how we did in planning. And this is something that we envision that you guys can take year after year and see your scores going up, see your fluctuations based on how you did and how you're feeling, and really track and get a sense of what's been working and what hasn't been working, where you can double down, and where maybe your plan is leaking a little bit and you need to shore up some of those things. So what you'll see right here on the main screen is your overall score.
Hey, Paul, can you zoom it in for everybody?
No.
Yeah. This particular report got a 65% overall, and they're in that builder phase. So right now, that's the assessment is showing that, hey, you got some good things in place, you got some foundation in place, but you still have some room to improve and some room to grow. And then below this, you'll see that we really have broken this down into 4 separate buckets that we think make a great go-to-market strategy. The first bucket being your business overview, which really hones in on how well is your current plan aligned with the North Star metrics of your business. Is the plan set up to achieve what the business is trying to achieve for the year? So you'll get a score for that. For your go-to-market strategy, how well is your plan documented? That's so important. Just having a good documented plan that everybody has bought off and has thrown their weight behind to go to market. How well is your plan and your content aligned with your ICPs? And is it scalable? So you'll get a score for that. Pipeline optimization is all about speeding up and building velocity within your pipeline. It's your plumbing. It's once you start to gather intent, once you start to gather contact information, do the leads get routed properly? Is there an agreement between sales and marketing over who's handling what? And how can you move deals from first becoming aware of you to closing at a faster rate? And then revenue acceleration is really all about those late stage, close to conversion deals. And do we have the content that we have? Do we have the playbooks that we need? Do we have the systems in place to close and improve our win rates, but also turn those customers into brand advocates at the end of this process? So going even farther than this down your assessment, you'll see that each section, we've actually provided some recommendations for you. If you got a great score, so great scores matter here as much as poor scores. So you'll see in the recommendations that you have in this report, hey, we think you're doing awesome on these things, double down, take this to the next level. But we've also highlighted some areas that, hey, have you thought about this? These are some areas that you might want to improve. And made some tailored recommendations based on what you've put in for how you can help the business grow and achieve your goals.
Yeah, that's a key point. These answers are actually tailored to you based on the responses that the answers that you gave in the assessment. And Jeremy, I loved how you said, taking the subjectivity out of it. So many people struggle with what is broken? What do I need to focus my attention on? Where do I need to double down? And that was actually the impetus that caused us to create this assessment in the first place, is how do we take something that's incredibly subjective and try to make it more objective? So would love to get your feedback. Do you guys think this was helpful? If you thought it was helpful, just put helpful in the chat. I'd love to see that. And let us know if you got any tips on how to make it better.
Yeah. So the $1 million question that everybody will have when they get this assessment is, that's great. These seem like good recommendations. What do I do with it now? And that's where we've designed our guide and our workbook to help you take this output and turn it into something actionable that you can go out and deploy within your business, that you can plan around. And that way, when you take this assessment again next year, you can say, wow, we really moved the needle on these priorities. So this first page in the workbook is your opportunity to really lift and shift some of those key recommendations that stood out to you from your assessment and fill them in here to identify, hey, these are the things against these 4 buckets that I really want to work on this year. We all know that a goal is really just a dream until it gets written down. So documenting what we want to be working on and what you think those recommendations are that you want to focus your attention on in 2026 will help you help us fill out the rest of this workbook and really help guide us through this whole process. So that's what you'll do on this page. Dump those in. I'm curious. We have some reflection questions here in the chat. Just let us know, where are you feeling the most friction heading into 2026? Where do you feel like your plan is making you a little bit nervous? Let us know. And this will give you an opportunity to fill that out and kind of just level set on very high level. These are the things we want to be working on, and we'll drill down on these throughout the workbook.
Yeah, I'll tell you, some of the friction that I'm hearing a lot of is just, how do we contact a lead? It seems like people have no problems getting people to, badge scans at trade shows or, webinar registrations. But what do we do to turn those people actually into hand raisers for our sales team? That seems to be a big friction point I'm hearing a lot. Also, I got a lot of responses on this survey. So I'm just going to the assessment rather. Most people are they were like, how am I doing compared to everybody else? Most people are in that 50 to 60 range. We saw a couple outliers in the upper 70s. I think one person was over like 80. Very, very few people were in the 20s and 30s, a few in the 40s. So, you got your score. That kind of gives you a sense of, if you're in the 50s and 60s, that's about where everybody was. But we'd love to know, where are you feeling the friction? And, do you feel like the score was helpful to you?
Absolutely. So we have our assessment, we have our scores, we've identified some priorities that we want to work on. So now's where the fun part for me, this is my favorite part of the workbook here, is this next section we're going to talk about is the work backwards exercises. So we believe that the best go-to-market plans begin with the end in mind. And so many companies struggle. They take a look at their previous plans, they start from their tactics and they tweak this and tweak that, but somewhere along the path, they lose sight of what are we really even trying to achieve with this. So we like to work through these work backwards exercises that really get us focused on what is our business trying to achieve and what is our customer trying to achieve, and building this ladder, this staircase back to what are the things that are within our influence and our control that are going to lead us along the path to success. So important things when we work through this exercise are specificity and granularity, right? Like business outcome, everybody wants more revenue, right? More revenue is great, but is there a goal that's I need $500,000 from new logos? You know, we talk, everyone's been familiar with SMART goals that should be measurable, and you want to be thinking about really challenge yourself to get as specific as you can with the outcome that you're trying to achieve for your business and the outcome that you're trying to achieve for your customer, and then what the drivers and influencers of that are. So, Paul, let's take a look at, I know you and Lauren just went through this for Vindy. Let's show a live example of how this kind of unfolded.
Yeah, that sounds good. Hey, Jeremy, you use the term begin with the end in mind. Do you know where that came from by any chance? Are you familiar with where that quote came from?
I am not, no.
Stephen Covey came up with that quote in the book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And man, I'm telling you, that is a wonderful book. If you haven't read it, it's one of the first business books I ever read, changed my life. I loved how you talked about customers. A lot of companies think about business outcomes, but they don't always think about how does what I do as a company actually influence my customer. And to me, that's the big unlock. And I know we're going to talk about that. So
absolutely. So
excited to get in there.
This is the work backwards exercise that Paul and Lauren just went through for Vindy's annual planning. So, Paul, why don't you talk us through what was the outcome that you were trying to achieve here?
Yeah. So, like you said, Jeremy, having very specific outcomes is like critical to success. And it's not just more revenue. But for us, we wanted to get as specific as possible. So, we've got, we're on EOS, which is an operating system, if you will, for running small businesses. Great system. And part of that, you have to have like a 7-year vision and a 3-year vision, and you work backwards even from those things. And so in order for us to hit our goal for next year, sales and marketing has to produce $670,000 in new contracts, 675 to be exact. And so, it's pretty black and white for us, pass or fail, very binary, yes or no, analog, right?
Absolutely. So thinking about what it takes to achieve that goal and what is the next step in the chain, one little baby step away from achieving that goal. What we see when we work with some clients here is more leads. Well, again, more leads might be the answer, or it might be more qualified leads, but better is what you see here, which is more specific. Lauren, do you want to talk through how you guys got to this driver as what would be the thing that made sure you achieved your outcome?
I mean, this driver section, it really comes down from us spending time tracking our metrics over the last couple of years. Once a month, we actually have some scores that we give ourselves, and it's literally just metric numbers that we put into a sheet, and so that we can easily see in black and white how many opportunities we get, how many discovery meetings we get, and things like that. So we just backed it up. We said, how many do we need in order to get the outcome that we want? This particular column was pure math.
Yeah.
Awesome. So you're able to get there with your metrics and your ability to track your data historically and back into that.
Yeah. And I see Eric's got a question there about what's the difference between driver and influencer. And that's the big thing, right? The drivers these are our tipping points. If we know that based on our math, we know that if we get 33 qualified opportunities and 50 discovery meetings next year, that we'll hit our goals. And that is like the tip of the spear. Those things are required in order for us to achieve our objective.
Yeah. And the influencers are, what are the actions that we can take? What are the things that need to happen to ensure that we get to those drivers, that we achieve those drivers? So in this case, the outcome and the drivers were backed by data, and they were metrics that you could be pulling backed into with math. The influencers, where we get a little bit more abstract and say, okay, what are the things that we really need to achieve now to make sure that we can get those opportunities? So Paul, you want to talk a little bit about the influencers?
Yeah. So to your point, as we take one step back from, okay, how do we get 33 qualified opportunities and 50 discovery meetings? And that represents a 28% increase, which is not reflected here, but we know that. How 28% increase in 26. Well, how do we do that? And we identified the things that are going to drive that more than anything is getting more hand raisers as a percentage. So we want to identify them, and we want to really roll out the red carpet, if you will, to make that hand raiser moment something special. So we want to dig into our data and think about, what does it look like for somebody right before they're a hand raiser, and how do we kind of make that a really special experience for them? And that's on the marketing side. And then on the sales side, we're a HubSpot Platinum partner. We're a HubSpot shop. So we want to leverage some of those sequences and Breeze intelligence that is inside of HubSpot as a way to make our sales team smarter and more able to see surges and things like that would show us, hey, maybe this is a person that is ready to meet with us.
That's outstanding. So we've had our outcome in mind. We know what our drivers are. We know one step back from them, what are the things that need to happen to achieve those drivers. So now we're gonna back the truck up a little bit more, and we're gonna think even larger scale. How can we ensure that we're identifying and improving that hand raiser movement? How can we make sure we have smarter sales and follow up? And what are the actions that need to be taken? What can we influence in our influencer to get through that? So Lauren, do you want to touch?
Yeah, I was just going to say, the influencers were a little less reliant on our metrics, but we still use metrics to come up with these influencers. We track every contact that we get through every stage. And so we were able to identify where things were breaking down. And we found it was in what we call the hand raiser moment. And so we determined, okay, well, that's something we need to fix. So then influencer 2 was like, okay, what sort of things do we think needs to happen in order to fix that problem? So that's kind of like how this process works, is you're going, okay, here's what we want, here's the driver, here's what we need to do to get to the driver, and then 2 and 3 is kind of like, what do we need to happen to get to influencer 1, and then 3 is what do we need to happen to get to influencer 2. So it kind of all drives onto itself.
Yeah, I like the way you said that, Lauren. The beauty of this exercise is that this really becomes like the yellow brick road, right, to your outcome. You get to see the actions that you're taking on a daily basis, what you're focusing on, and how is that going to move you down the path from what am I doing today connecting to the outcome of the business. So, but the business is only one side of the coin. So We need to also focus on that customer.
Yeah. Hey, one thing I want to touch on too before we go on, if you'll notice under Influencer 2, improve event attendance and red carpet treatment for growth show newbies, we know because of the data that 80% of our pipeline comes through this growth show. And so that's why making sure those newbies and we have really good guests tied right into our plan this year. So going back to what you said earlier, Jeremy, about data and the plumbing is so important. We wouldn't be able to see those things if we didn't have good plumbing.
Absolutely. And, the business is only one side of what is going to make a good go-to-market strategy work. The other side is making sure that we're delivering the outcome and the result that our customer is looking for. So this is the exact same exercise. So we'll move through it a little bit faster, but it's from the point of view of your customer. And the outcome is, what does winning look like for them? And what is the outcome that they truly want to achieve? I assure you, as much as we may want it to be true, it is not to just buy something. They're looking for a specific pain to be removed, a goal to be achieved, a quality of life improvement, and really honing in and challenging yourself specifically on being able to define, maybe in just one sentence or 1 or 2 bullet points, what is the true outcome that my customer is trying to achieve? So, Paul, what did you say here when you were working through this?
Yeah. So, These three blocks on the far right, I challenge everybody to spend some time with leadership and sales to figure this out. 9 times out of 10, and you can't really tell in that second one. My bad on that. But the second question is, how do you become the obvious choice? I ask that question just about every time I'm meeting with a client. I ask them what their, what is their customer trying to solve, and how do you become the obvious choice to solve that? And I get deer in headlights 95% of the time. That's the stuff you got to get figured out. So, we know, because we talk to customers and we do surveys, that really what our clients need from us is predictable pipeline, that they're struggling with that. And they also need a partner that they can trust. And that's kind of a psychographic thing. We know that the customers we serve best are the ones that really are dependent on somebody to stay on top of digital marketing, because they've got a lot of other places they're trying to spend. And they need that person to be trusted. Like they get an email from the CEO asking a question, that they could just fire it off to somebody and get an answer right away. We know that those are the things our customers, that's not every B2B company out there, but the ones we serve, that's what they care about. And so, showing that we are experts in those areas really are what make us the obvious choice. That's why you see me posting every single day on LinkedIn with thought leadership content. That's why we do the Growth Show.
Yeah.
And Paul, you brought up a good point. Like you mentioned, this was a collaboration between sales and marketing. And we've seen, like, with us and with our clients, the more people you get in the room, the better these conversations happen. You'll get more light bulb moments. If you guys run RFPs, get the RFP team in there. If you guys have sales, get the sales team in there. It's really it's good to have multiple perspectives, because sometimes you'll connect dots that you wouldn't otherwise be connecting.
Absolutely. So, where the rubber really meets the road here for me is in Influencer One, which is how can we prove it or reduce risk? Because a lot of what we may feel like make us the obvious choice, we may have huge content gaps. And can we prove it to the customer? Do we have the testimonials that we need? Do we have the proof points? Do we have the NPS scores? Do we have the technical documentation that we need? And that will really open up a lot of thinking for you of, how do I make sure that the customer knows and I can prove it beyond a shadow of a doubt that I am the obvious choice that can deliver the outcome that they're looking for? And then going back to Influencer 2 and Influencer 3, it's, how do we influence that? What are the channels that we need to be in? What are the actions that we need to take to make sure that we're delivering this message in the channels that the customer is spending time, and in the format that they need it? So, Paul, quickly, do you want to touch on what went into Influencer 2 and 3?
Yeah, 2 and 3 really ultimately come back to product design, right? So this is where marketing and product design come together, because if you're not building a product that's meeting the needs of your customers, and you're not intent on focusing on delivering a solution that ensures they receive the value that sales is telling them they're going to receive, none of this works, right? So you've got it. This is where even having the product team involved in some of this is so critical.
Awesome. Well, Paul, do you want to touch on, because we're going to move on here, like kind of how this is all building on each other as we move into the next section?
Yeah, great point. So if you think about what we've done here with the assessment was designed to help you see some gaps around 4 areas, right? One, just your overall plan, and then some things we'll go into here in a minute. And what we're trying to do here is get you to think backwards. Now I kind of understand my gaps, where I'm weak, but now I need to really start seeing what's going to move the needle for my business. These are where you're going to get some tactical steps that you can work on. Because another challenge that we see all the time is, just because you can do something doesn't mean that you should do something, right? We all have way too many plates to spin, and good planning is really as much about deciding not to do something as to do something. And so what we're hoping this process is going to do is help you pick 2 or 3 things in a few categories of areas that you want to double down on and do really well next year, not try to do everything. And so I know it's a lot of information, but it's like a diamond, right? We're trying to hit it from multiple facets so you can pick and isolate the things that are really going to make a difference next year. And so really, to kind of set the stage for that, you've heard us talk about, we call these the 3 levers, or pulling the right levers. And, one of the things that what we discovered that caused us to really, change even the way that we deliver our services is, about 2 years ago, we realized that traditionally the way that we delivered services to our clients, the effectiveness of those things was changing. We called ourselves a demand gen agency. Other companies might have called that a performance marketing agency. And, we were really focused in this first lever, which was go to market, helping people understand who their customers were, understanding the messages that mattered to them, and then getting campaigns in market. And then, so that they could get the awareness and drive traffic to their website, and everything else would be fine. And that worked great for 24 years, and then it quit working. And so we had to go back and go, what the hell is going on? How do we continue to serve our clients? Because the things that we've done and relied on for so long aren't working as well. And when we peeled back the onion, we realized that there's these other two levers that exist in every single one of our clients, that if we don't address them, or at least make them visible to them so that they can address them, we could drive all the traffic in the world and all the MQLs in the world. They're still not going to grow pipeline. And so that's why we created these levers, because traditionally we've been in this go-to-market lever, but the other parts of the levers are the pipeline optimization, which is just how do we remove friction? How do we see the life cycle of somebody getting added to our CRM all the way to them becoming a closed won or closed loss and a happy customer? And then revenue acceleration. How do we make better data-driven decisions? And how do we turn our customers into advocates? And so it's not, that we've abandoned the first lever. That lever is still just as important. It's changed a little bit, but we have to go focus on these other two levers if we're going to grow pipeline, because our commitment to our customers is that we'll help them get predictable pipeline. And this is what we believe is the path to accomplish that. And so what we're going to do now is actually break that down for you. And this is tied directly to your workbook. Let me just pull up the workbook one more time. And then, Lauren, I'm going to give you the floor here. So we've covered this. And again, this workbook, you can go right in and type stuff in. We're not expecting that you're going to do that today. We're just really trying to give you the lay of the land. And now we're going to walk through this section right here of your workbook. And so, Lauren, why don't you walk us through go-to-market?
Yeah, I think we've explained what go-to-market is a few times, and if you're in marketing, of course, we know what this is. So this part of this workbook, this score that you got, is just kind of telling you a measure of how well you are achieving the things that you need in order to have a solid go-to-market approach. And in the workbook, it'll ask you a couple of questions that will kind of prompt certain things that you might think of as next steps with regards to that particular lever. And Brandon, this is kind of where your question comes in. You had asked okay, great, we have this plan. How do we actually enact it? How do we make sure that when people go back to their normal jobs, they just don't go back to what they were doing before, but instead move the plan forward? And you do that through saying, you do this and you do this, and coming up with a list of action items. So like a question might prompt, is your content something buyers want to consume, or is it something you're hoping they click? Like you might be looking at analytics to see that. You might be asking your audience, literally in a survey, do you like our content? And then coming up with like action items to act on that. A good example is we had with a client, they had an issue where they were getting into the presentation stage of RFPs, but they weren't actually getting the message across, and they weren't getting the result that they wanted. They didn't win the jobs. And we determined through the work back process that we had already discussed that their presentations weren't very clear in their value statements. And so they had determined that they need to write we believe statements and use them across their decks and their website. So it's an actionable, real thing that it becomes a task for the team to complete.
Awesome. Yeah, a couple of things just to think about here is, when you're, I love this first prompt, are buyers seeing enough of you to remember you before they're in market? It goes back to what we talked about at the very beginning. If you're not showing up often and always, and really driving home what makes you different and how you can help and serve people, we call it the answer the question, what do you want them to know? If you're not doing that consistently before they're in market, that's a great opportunity for you to, write down a couple of things. And these are just some examples of those that we've had with some of our other clients. Awesome. Well, anything else you want to add there, Lauren?
No, I just actually saw the little note that we have at the bottom. Your pipeline growth assessment report will give you tailored recommendations based on your answers. So those are not canned responses exactly. They are reacting to how you answered. And so I would also reference those to see what recommendations are there that might prompt other ideas.
Awesome. I'm going to handle pipeline optimization, which is really that middle lever. When we looked at the 3 circles, again, we have there are 5 questions of the 20 questions that we're focused on that. This is, as we've already mentioned, all about the plumbing. I don't know why we call it plumbing. It just makes sense in my brain. That, we've got this customer that we need to move from contact added all the way to close won, close lost, advocate down the road. Can we see that entire journey? Do we know who owns that relationship and how we surround them all along the way? Are we stepping on each other's toes or not? Are we optimizing for that hand raiser moment? That's what the pipeline optimization lever is all about. And quite frankly, that was the big, huge aha moment for us when we were analyzing our business and going, hey, something's changed. We got to deliver our services differently to our clients because what's working in the past is changing. And so what we found is our clients are all screwed up when it comes to sales and marketing alignment, seeing their customer across the journey, who owns them at what stages, what messages really matter to them, removing friction along the way. This is a huge area that most businesses need to focus on right now. And so some questions to think about, and these prompts are in the workbook. But where do you feel like your prospects are stalling? Like I mentioned earlier, what I'm hearing the most as I talk to companies is we have no problem getting contacts in our system. We just don't know how to get them to become hand raisers. We at Vindy had that same problem. And so what we decided to do last year, as just an example, when we went through this process for our own business last year, was that we needed to add a lifecycle stage to our CRM called Learner, that we were treating learners like leads. And you cannot treat a learner like a lead, especially if you're going after future buyers. And so one of the action items we took last year that ended up on our report was adding this learner category and then deciding how we're going to serve a learner differently than a lead. And that's had a huge impact on our business. And so, you can see some of the other prompts there. These are just examples on the right. One of the big ones you can do is sales and marketing alignment, like just get an agreement on, what is a lead? What are the stages? Who owns that relationship at the stage? What are the information requirements that buyers have at those different stages? And how are you going to deliver that information? But definitely, based on what I've seen in working with a lot of B2B companies, there's lots of room for improvement here across the board. Anything you guys want to add on that before we move on?
I think you did a great job, Paul. I think we can move on for here.
Okay.
You got it
You're just
covered.
saying that because I'm the boss.
All right. So the last lever that we're going to talk about, or the last one of these buckets, is the revenue acceleration piece. And this is really where we think critically about do our sales teams have what they need for the late stage conversion? And how can marketing help besides being the make it pretty department? Are there plays that we can run here that are going to shorten our cycles and help us identify opportunities to upsell and to cross-sell, but to capture the great work that we're doing and turn our customers into advocates for our brand? So, Paul, if you want to go to the next slide, key things to be looking at here are, what is keeping our deals from progressing or closing today? Do our sales people need battle cards where they have proof points that they have that are marketing, that we've done the research that we can share with the customers? Do they need to be equipped with testimonials? Do we have our NPS scores? Do we have good nurture sequences in place for after somebody's already become a customer to turn them into that advocate for our brand? Are we good at handling objections here? Can marketing play a role in creating the content that's going to be impactful at this point? As to Lauren's earlier point, is our best and final presentation good? Is it speaking the way that the customer has learned about us and reinforcing the value and the things that we've built throughout our campaigns and through our plumbing and through our nurture sequences and through what they've gotten? Are we consistent when it comes to the best and final and telling the same story? These are all things that are going to help us increase that win rate, shorten the amount of time that it takes for us to close these deals, and ensure that when we do close, that the customer has gotten the outcome and the experience that we told them that they were going to get. And then systemizing a way to capture that as a case study or as a testimonial that we can feed back into our go-to-market plan, and really closing this loop for revenue acceleration. So this is about taking all that velocity that we've built, getting the last quarter mile, and really nailing it and hitting it out of the park in the last chunk of our customer's journey.
Yeah, when we were doing this for ourselves last year, we realized we did not have enough social proof or just validation externally in any of our messaging. And it wasn't that it didn't exist, we just weren't mining it. And so we realized we had to get intentional about working with our clients and making sure that we were delivering the value that we promised on the sales side, 2, that they understood it, and 3, that we had a system and a process for extracting that information. And so that became one of our planks. And last year, for any of our clients that are watching, thank you very much. But we literally used Riverside just like this and had interviews with our clients and just had a set of questions that we asked them. We recorded all of that, and then that became testimonial content that we're using on our website and our social media. And that's all because we recognized that this third lever really needed more attention than what we were giving it. And so some great examples here too for you guys to consider. Awesome. Lauren, you want to walk through, we've been talking about these levers, which are really like a framework to make sure that we're focusing on these areas of our business that need attention. But where does the pipeline acceleration process come in?
Yeah, this is really our North Star when we are doing anything with Vindy or even our clients. Everything points back to this and supports this. Like a researcher will use a scientific method to make sure that they're getting the consistent results that they can trust. We as marketers need a process that we can use over and over again to get the results we need and that we know will actually happen. So that's what this is for us. It's a cycle. It goes back around. It typically starts with activating your audience. This is knowing who they are. This is making sure they know who you are. It's very reciprocal in that nature. The second step is typically establish authority, where you're using things like thought leadership and content in order to really make sure that your audience knows that you know what you're talking about. Then nurture relationships. This just happens once, in our case, it happens when someone becomes a learner. Like, how do we keep them engaged to the point where they want to raise their hand and reach out to us so that we can have a meeting with them? Or in our clients' cases, how do we stay in contact with our clients' contacts in order to help them reach that same stage? And the last step is growth and retention, where you're taking people who are already your customers and making them advocates so that they can actually go out and talk how great you are to other people to grow that audience that you've been working on, and activate audience. That's how it kind of circles back around. And this is all tied together by sales and marketing alignment, making sure everyone's speaking from the same hymn book, and tracking buyer signals and getting your pipeline acceleration. So this is kind of our North Star whenever we're working on something. And a really good question to ask yourself once you've kind of thought this through is where is a bottleneck? Where is a source of friction in this process? And I'll hand it off to Paul because he's going to talk.
I was just going to bring this up because I know you're talking about that, and that's a question that we actually have in the workbook.
Exactly. Yeah. So
go ahead, Lauren.
No. Paul, go ahead and tell us about that.
Yeah. So just the point is that Lauren, you did a great job of walking through the process. This is where we add, the customer point of view to it, right? We've got to move a customer through a journey, and you did a great job of explaining how we do that. So for you, we just want you to think about where is the bottleneck and why, because you can't fix it until you've got that figured out. And again, we're not going to walk you through how to do that today. The workbook is really for you to go and have that discussion with other people. I did notice, Emma, you have a question about what do we do with those late stage buyers? For the lack of time, I'm not going to spend much time on it, but there are definitely plays that marketing can run to help. one of the best plays is just surrounding your opportunities with content in social media. So boosted content in social media. So when that buying committee or those logos are in LinkedIn, they're seeing testimonial content. They're seeing what we call bottom of the funnel content that really validates why you're the right solution. And so it's a subjective way of just staying very top of mind with the right information that's going to help them know you're the best, most qualified to solve their problem. But anyways, to take this part of the workbook, just like the 3 levers, and we knew we weren't going to have time for this today, there are prompts here, and we want you to pick not 20 plates, but maybe 1 or 2 plates to spin for each stage of the pipeline acceleration process. So that's what you would do here in the rest of the workbook. And then the next part here, and again, we're getting ready to wrap. So really my job here, or our job, is just to help you see what's in the workbook and what to do with it. This is a really important section because, as we've mentioned a couple of times, MQLs and traffic aren't the right ways to measure success for marketing moving forward. So the next question we have to ask ourselves is how do we measure success? And we've identified 6 really important ways to measure success. This is how we're measuring success for our business and how we're going to help our clients measure success moving forward. We've got definitions here for you on how to measure that. And then we would just encourage you to think about, hey, are we tracking this well already today? Or is this something that we need to work on? And so that'll help you transition from, traffic or search rankings or whatever to something that's actually going to be move the needle, where you're looking at the things and actions that you're taking and how that's influencing pipeline and revenue. And so be sure to take care of that. Take a look at that. Again, you can meet with us one-on-one if you want more help with this. We're happy to have a one-on-one session with you to go through that. The next section here are building blocks. And so we've been talking about structure and behavior from our buyers primarily. We have to get that right. That's why you start there. But eventually you have to think about, how is our buyer going to experience our brand? And that's what these building blocks are. So where are they going to actually consume our brand? And what tactics or building blocks do we want to leverage next year? There's 10 of them here. And we're not recommending that you do all 10. It's the same idea of the plate spinning. What are 2 or 3 of these that you really want to focus on next year to help? Like for us, it's events. We're going to be big in events next year. We always are. And so we're constantly looking at, how do we take the growth show to the next level? But pick 2 to 3 building blocks that you really want to double down on, and to connect the dots all the way back to the pipeline growth assessment and everything that we've done with you today. There's probably some real clear evidence based on what you've seen about your own business that will point to some building blocks, because maybe you're not doing a lot on LinkedIn. Maybe you're not doing a lot in social media. Maybe that's where you need to pay attention. Maybe you're not doing anything with video. Maybe that's a building block you need to focus on. And then the last part of this is coming up with a 1-page go-to-market plan. This is all about measuring up. The stuff that we talked about today is probably not the stuff you would take to leadership to get your budget approved. And I laugh at myself because it's the 1-page marketing plan, part of our workbook, but it's literally like 3 pages. But that's the homework you have to do to literally get to the 1-page plan. And I can tell you, we've been teaching this 1-page marketing plan for about 3 or 4 years. And I know several of our clients use the 1-page marketing plan to go get their budgets approved every year. It works really well because the C-suite and leadership really don't care about all those influencer 1s and influencers 2. What they really care about is, how are you going to generate the revenue that I need you to generate this year? What are the plays that you're going to run to accomplish that? Leave all of the marketing jargon and technical speak on the table. Yes, you're going to focus on those things, but don't go to the C-suite or the board meeting with that information. And this part of the workbook will help you figure that part out. And so hopefully this has been a helpful session for you guys. Really, the next steps in the process are for you to take this workbook, this guide, the pipeline growth assessment, take it to your team, talk to them about the things that you learned today, fill out that workbook on your own, schedule a one-on-one session with us if you want. Like, we're happy to sit down with you for an hour and connect some of the dots. We also have an option, again, not a sales pitch here, but just to let you know, We facilitate 1-day workshops. So if you want to get your leadership team together, your sales leadership together, your marketing team together, maybe CS, all the people that are involved in building out a plan, and you need some facilitation to do that, we're happy to do that for you. Let me know if you're interested, and I'll walk you through what that looks like. But I can tell you, if you're in some turf wars where sales is thinking one thing and marketing is thinking a different thing and leadership is thinking a different thing, sometimes having a facilitator come in to play referee helps a lot. And so if you're in that situation, that might be a good place where a 1-day workshop might be helpful to you. And so, Jeremy and Lauren, did we time this like perfect? It's 12:58.
We've got 2 minutes, Paul.
I'm actually pretty impressed. So
I have one question that we didn't answer if we can slide that in real fast.
Yeah, slide it in real fast.
So it was Hannah earlier. She wanted to know if we saw any shared trends on friction points across the assessment takers. So it was one of the questions about the friction points, and she wanted to know if, when you were reviewing the assessment results, if you saw any trends on that.
Like common, where is the friction most frequently?
Exactly.
The point I'm seeing the most is truly getting contacts to become hand raisers. And if you peel back the onion on that, what we've found is it comes down to ownership and partnership. So sales is, marketing is sending leads that aren't ready because they don't feel like they have the responsibility to take a lead and nurture them. And the reality is, we're all playing on the same team. We all need to surround our customers, just need to do it the right way. Mm-hmm. Jeremy, were you going to say something that looked like you were getting ready?
Yeah, I would say it's in the plumbing. It's so many, companies are faced with, they don't have the visibility that they need into, what their prospects are doing, what content are they engaging with, how are we lead scoring appropriately? Like, when does the lead get passed off to sales? When does it move from learner to hand raiser? Like, that plumbing side of it is really the next frontier, and being able to do this stuff the right way and illuminating way to see what's really going on.
Awesome. Guys, thank you so much. Happy holidays to everybody. It's been a true honor to do this with you guys for 4 years now. It's one of my favorite things that we do at Vindy is these monthly growth shows. So appreciate you. Looking forward to a really fun, exciting year next year. I'm really stoked about all the great guests that we're going to have on the show. Please reach out to us. Let us know topics that you'd love us to cover or guests you'd love to have us interview. But until next year, happy holidays to you, and we'll see you in 2026.